Brad Treliving, general manager of the Leafs, did speak this morning as of, so not Friday morning, Thursday morning. Essentially end of season availability. I didn't get a chance personally to watch it. I saw a lot of clips. You guys, I believe, watched it. So what were kind of the key takeaways? We won't spend too much time on it. I'm sure fans are like, the Leafs haven't been in the playoffs for like 2 weeks, but
exactly.
What were kind of the key takeaways?
No,
Brandon,
number one. That's number one. That's the number one thing right there. The Leafs haven't been in the playoffs for 2 weeks, and then he comes out and speaks. That's the number one takeaway.
Well, I mean, he alluded to that. He apologized for the time just because he mentioned it was at his daughter's graduation happening in Alberta. Didn't want to miss that. Didn't want to give, a speech or give his comments until he was able to come back, get all the information, and obviously speak with Keith Pelly and everything, who we did hear from last week. It was just kind of, one of those scheduling things and he mentioned it, like the Brendan Shanahan thing, it seems like kind of came out of nowhere, was something that came together quickly and has kind of, been the cause of this kind of delay in terms of getting all of these people to give their final comments. So, but in terms of what he did say, I thought he did a great job. He really, kind of recapped obviously what the season was like for the team, spoke about the grueling disappointment of losing in Game 7 to the Panthers, but talked about some of the positives as well, and did a good job, I think, of continuing to, pursue the idea that Keith Pelly shared, that I think Craig Berube has shared sort of, in that this team just wants to be different and wants to win a Stanley Cup, and that's where they're headed. Whether or not, the team next year looks similar to the team this year, that's still to be decided, and he obviously wouldn't comment too much on what's going to be happening with some free agents like John Tavares and Mitch Marner, but I thought he was very confident in his thoughts in terms of what they have going forward and what they're going to try to do. And for the most part, we just kind of have to wait and see for a little bit to see if what he was kind of putting out there is going to come to fruition or not. So,
yeah. To add to your point, like he did think like they have a good team, like, and I think you'd be dumb to say that they have a bad team, because like they obviously have one of the best teams in the NHL when you look at their depth on forward and defense. It's just a matter of like finding the pieces that actually work together in their case, I feel like, is the biggest thing. But my number one takeaway from the Brad Treliving exit press conference was him being himself, in the sense of when he talks a lot, but he doesn't say a lot, if that makes sense. And even though he didn't say much in terms of the grand scheme of things today, he did say something to me, which was he doesn't want Mitch Marner back. And that was pretty obvious when you have like the whole press conference to say one time we want to sign Mitch Marner. Like, that's a priority for us. And not once did he say that. The number one thing he said was, I want to get Nye signed before July 1st. Yeah. So if that's your priority, like, that just tells me there's no chance Mitch Marner's signing. Like,
well, I mean, I think he was,
or even like
he was kind of, I think he was kind of trying not to. You can't really say that. You give Mitch and his team all the leverage if you just come out and say it's a different situation. He's a UFA. Matthew Nyes is an RFA. They have all the power in signing Nyes. They have literally no power to sign Mitch Marner. And then he alluded to that. It's up to Mitch, really, like, what's going to happen. So
yes, but don't you think like he could have came out and said, like, Berube came out and said, like, 100% I want Mitch Marner back, like. That, you think that gives Mitch Marner power in that situation? I don't think it does. I just think because it's a good comment.
I agree. Like, it would be nice, and I'm sure like Mitch Marner's camp would have loved to hear that too. But I think Berube isn't negotiating with Marner or his representatives. Brad Treliving is directly, and he has, while you think Treliving may not have that much power to lose anyway, he does by trying to play this as best he can close to the chest, because they can't be out here trying to, give Marner his flowers or give him everything he wants if they're not even 100% sure that they do want him back, or what the plan is going to be or what the money looks like. So they have to kind of wait it out, see what exactly the market looks like and what, Marner and his camp are going to want to do. And that's where the power comes from, because Mitch, as the unrestricted free agent, he holds all of the cards and he can decide, no matter what the offer is, that that he doesn't want to take it or that he wants to go somewhere else.
No.
He also said that he wasn't sure that there was even going to be an offer to John Tavares before July 1st. So there's a level of negotiation in a lot of these comments that I think is fine. Like, it's not going to determine whether or not either of these guys resign. I think it's just playing the cards the way that they think they're going to do it. So,
but it's supposed to be an end of season press conference for like the whole team, and I think the minute you introduce any open door policy of like anything to do with Mitch Marner, other than like we'll figure it out down the line kind of thing, kicking the can down there, because really it's July 1st when teams can talk to him. So ultimately, like at the end of the day, if you're bringing up Mitch Marner, the whole press conference changes. The media runs with it. It's just better to sweep it under the rug and talk about the team. Now, yes, he did bring up Matthew Nyes, but like you said, Brandon, he's RFA. And if you sign Mitch Marner first, that gives other teams way more leverage to provide offer sheets, because then Toronto's a little bit more cap strapped.
That's a great point.
That kind of thing is important. Now, it's not important in the conversation of
space,
just
but
but
it absolutely does, because if all of a sudden
it.
a little bit more how close they are to the cap,
and
then you can force them to spend more money.
Right?
So
you can offer John Tavares a healthy contract and kind of squeeze him out if you offer him $4 extra million. Then let's say Toronto's going to offer, because we're assuming they're going to offer somewhere in the $6 to $7 million range at the most for John Tavares to stay with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but even it might have to be less. But the only thing with the power thing and like the Treliving comment about like not even saying like we want to re-sign Marner, I still think if you say like we want to re-sign Marner, it gives like the understanding of like we're still trying to work with him and trying to like actively re-sign him. But now that you've kind of not said that, it kind of leaves me to think his rights could be traded before July 1st. Like I
maybe he did say he was in contact with their
yes, he was in contact.
So like, they are negotiating, but they've been doing that all year. That's part of why he didn't get traded. That's part of why.
He had to no move, so he didn't have to get traded. But
they clearly had reached a point where they had maybe they had at that point said we can't re-sign you. We're trying to trade you. And he said no. But like I think even still beyond all of that, there's no way that even till the very end, even till July 1st or whenever he signs with whatever team it is, the Leafs will be right there, and they will be, whether it's because of money or because of the situation or because that's just. I don't think Mitch Marner's trying to run out of here and not consider anything with the Leafs. So I think the Leafs will be a part of whatever happens going forward. It's just a matter of will it end up, in a certain way or not. So
yeah, I mean, I have more comments on I guess him, but I'll leave those for a later day. I just think there will be lots of time. Yeah, there's a lot of time between now and July 1st, basically,
it's a press conference, and like unless he flat out came out and said something egregious or off the cuff, and Brad Treliving is not going to do that. No one really is. I mean, Dubas has had his moments, but like I don't think Treliving's been that way. I like just the comment of the we have to change the mindset between the ears. Like if you imagine that dressing room and like 5, 6, 7 guys have come back every year. You include the Rileys and the Tavares into those, or Tavares is already part of the group, but the Rileys in that group, let's say you're 5. And you go back to the playoffs every year and you look around and like the main guys are the same guys and none of you have been able to collectively get it done. Yeah, like I'm sure the mindset is brutal when you're getting to a point where you're like, well, what's to say that this isn't going to happen again in terms of game 7 or whatever. Game 5, they laid the egg. So I think that does say, like, I don't think anything you're saying is not true, Justin. Like, I do think the conversation was essentially leading to, unfortunately, Mitch Marner's not coming back, because mentally the only thing that's going to change is if something literally changes. And if you don't change it,
we didn't even touch on the biggest, I guess, comment or quote, I guess, of the day is like, we need to change the DNA of the team.
Yeah.
Like what DNA means is I have no idea. Like, who are you changing Austin Matthews' DNA, like physically, or are you like
injecting him with something, or
I took that more as them. And I think that those were good things to say, because I think
yes,
you don't want people have accepted the fact that there was a change in whatever buzzword you want to use, culture, DNA, understanding of kind of what's needed to be done. But I think there's still more to be done, and I think that's why they've wanted to kind of hit that hammer home just by continuing to say that the types of players, and he mentioned this today, like the types of players that they've brought in, they've been really excited about, and they think that they fit well with what they're trying to do, and they just want to keep doing more of that, I think. And with the uncertainty around what their cap situation will look like and how many roster spots might be available, I think they are being, and this adds to your earlier point, Justin, I think they're being, vague on purpose because they don't really know how things are going to shake out, and B, I think they're still trying to figure out exactly whether that's without Mitch Marner, without John Tavares, what they envision this team to look like going forward, and what they think is the best chance to give them the Stanley Cup. And they're going to have to battle with the, conversation between, even a John Tavares. If they don't truly believe that he gives them the best chance to win a cup, how do you navigate that, him potentially leaving the team or him, which I don't think is going to happen, but it's those kind of situations where they've had to play out over the past, pretty much over the past year. And now they're at a point where it's like, okay, now we got to, take strides to actually putting this plan in place, because this offseason could be, if not, flat out is the most important one they've had in the last, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever you want to say, because for the most part, that core's been there. Yeah, that core's been there, but this is the first time where it's felt like, even through some of their earlier negotiations, it always felt like they were going to get it done. This year, it does feel like there's going to be some significant change. So,
yeah, like there's actually a possibility to change more than just the peripheral pieces on the team or the coach. Like you can actually affect the team. Yeah,
like you're
it's like
this is like now we're at the core, like for trying to, change everything. And let's be honest, like 31 teams in the NHL every single year go back to the drawing board and trying to figure out new ways to try and advance and win the Stanley Cup. Only one team every single year gets to go home and say, we got the Stanley Cup. And like, we even have to go back to the drawing board and how to prepare for next season. So at the end of the day, like, it's not the biggest deal when you're thinking about changing stuff, I would say, like, because like, you might as well just keep on changing. You can't just keep on doing the same thing over and over again, because that's not working, right? Like, you got to change. So like, appreciate the fact that like at least they're gonna attempt to keep on trying to win a Stanley Cup and try new stuff. Like, they're not gonna just roll over and say, yeah, we're gonna toss our chips in with this group every single year and just roll it out and try and win. Like, no, they realize like it's not working and they got to change, and they've gone through changes the last 7 years. Like you guys said, like it's been all outside stuff, not really the inside. And this year it's finally the core. Like, we're gonna see a change there.
I think so. And I think the closer we get to July 1st, I think you're going to start to see the conversation maybe turn. You're actually already seeing a little bit in the media, but you might hear rumbles of like, should we roll it back? Because people are afraid.
I hate it.
I've heard this already. I've heard
I think people are afraid of the unknown. They don't want to take a step back. They'd rather keep winning in the regular season and get to the playoffs like Carolina, keep getting there. And that's good enough for some people because they feel like eventually it might work out, or at least we're there and we're in the conversation. And there is some merit to that, but at the same time, this isn't a organization that needs the playoff gates or needs to, be in the relevance to continue to make money or be profitable. Like this team, no matter what they do, will be the most profitable team in the NHL, and needs to slay the demon of not winning a Stanley Cup since 1967. So they got to make tough decisions, and I think this is going to be a huge summer to do so.
The last thing on this is like you mentioned about like the change and man, I'm forgetting what you honestly just said right a second ago. It was about
like running it back, the team.
Yes, running it back. And it's like Marner. If you just lose Marner for nothing, like, do you like comfortably make the playoffs next year without him? Like, that's 100 points off your team where you don't have, like, you know what I mean? Like, you got to replace that. So
yeah.
I mean, I still would be pretty comfortable, even if you if you replace him with league average players. I think that's only, assuming they bring back Tavares, like that's only really one forward spot, hypothetically, where you're losing a talent of that level. Like, I think they could make it work if you continue to bring in the right players, and maybe they have other things up their sleeves that they're looking at. But but I would still be comfortable that they would be a playoff team, even if it was a wild card team. I would still, So.
You talk about a team that did make the change a couple of years ago, and look where they are, i.e. the Florida Panthers. They got rid of a 100-point player in Jonathan Huberdeau, changed their culture with Tkachuk. And that's, so the unknown is scary, but that's the known now, is their 3 straight Stanley Cup finals with one change.
The only difference is they traded him. They didn't lose him for nothing in free agency.
It is impossible to compare the two because, yes, like you're right, but if, let's say, the Leafs sign an Ehlers, a Bennett, some people think that Bennett has a chance to come here. I don't have any speculation that's another road.
Saying like it's either Panthers or Leafs already. Like,
I've seen that too. But
only
it's like if that happens, then technically it's not a trade, but it's you replace one for the other, and you're back in the conversation.